Casual Magic has been sponsored by Quiver, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine deck holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their website for 10% off your order. We're also sponsored by Architect, the premier site for hosting your decks on the internet. I love them and they love me, and it seems like a good reason for you to use them. You can also support Casual Magic directly by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/ShivamB. And now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun times of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect and Quiver and my patrons at patreon.com/ShivamB. Today, I have my dear friend, like real life friend, Kat Bailey, who was on the show earlier last year, maybe, or the last year, the year before, something like that, to talk about her introduction and brand new experience with Magic. And I thought it would be fun to have her come back and talk about how it's been in the year or so since, now that you've become deeply, let's say, drowning in Magic, and coming back from your Final Fantasy pre-release, and what it's like being not brand new. Well, you're not brand new anymore, but now you're like, you've still got the shine of excitement on you.
Yeah.
You're like,
Just my eyes are open and shiny. I'm like, wow, Magic. What a perfect and amazing game. There's no problems with this thing whatsoever.
I love talking to people who have not had the glaze of cynicism put on them yet.
Yeah. Just call me after a few more expansions are released, and then
so
I'll just
tomorrow.
I'll get a long drag from a cigarette, be like, I was there during the Final Fantasy release. And let me tell you, it's nothing the same with this Avatar release. Those kids, they're just ruining the spirit of Magic.
Kat, you laugh, but I had a conversation the other day with somebody who had joined Magic with an expansion that was literally 2 years ago. It's still legal and standard. And they were just talking about like, man, the game's just not what it used to be. And I'm like, bro, the game is the same game it was when you started because there's still legal set. Like I could still buy the card you started with on the shelf. Let's chill for
just chill out.
Back in my day, oh my god, dude! I was there when it was written. So yeah, Kat, you once upon a time were like a very high level honcho at IGN and have now branched off into the land of independence and freedom and newsletters and writing. But the reason I thought it would be fun to have you here is because Final Fantasy is a thing that both of us love a lot. And the set just came out, and we both went to pre-releases, my umpteenth trillion and your first. And
my
so
first.
That's so wild to me. Like
my baby's first pre-release.
You know what's funny? I started playing at the dawn of the game, but my first pre-release wasn't until like 2011.
No kidding. Why did it take so long?
Because I stopped playing for a large chunk, and when I had started, there was no pre-releases. There were just, when do the cards come out? Randomly. You know, like whenever the shipping guy gets it to the store, that's when your release is. And the pre-releases, can I get to the front of the line before everybody else does, or all the cards will be gone? Right? Like,
wow.
Dude, when I started in 1994, Legends had come out earlier that spring, and I started in that fall. And even by then, the cards were vaporized and like spoken of in myth, and like nobody knew they actually existed or what they did. And nowadays, a set that releases in spring, if you were in fall, you're going to still see those on the shelf, right? Easy peasy. So, but pre-release, my favorite time of the year, because that's when, like my store's pre-releases, they sold out all of them. There were a bunch of people who were like, yeah, I haven't played in a million years, or I'm brand new to Magic or whatever. And it's because the allure of casting Cloud and Zidane is very, very high.
Yeah, very strong. Actually, we were talking to someone who was there. I was like, yeah, I haven't played Magic in like 20 years. I'm getting back into it because I like Final Fantasy. I feel like that sentiment was really strong. I've talked to people who really love Magic the Gathering and have been around for a long time. And I've talked to people who are kind of new to it about what their thoughts are. The opinions have been all over the place, as you would kind of expect with it. Just for context, if you haven't met me before, dear listener, I host a podcast called Acts of the Blood God, which talks a lot about the Final Fantasy side of the
It,
equation. But we have been talking about Magic the Gathering a lot more since my co-host Eric and I have been getting into it. And my own impression of the
mm,
Magic the Gathering deck is that it is a lot of fun to play for me personally, but I get the sense that some of these cards are a little strong in many ways. I was able to pull a Sephiroth, for example, that is going to go into
oh
my
my god,
Aristocrats deck.
that card is nutter butters.
It's so good because it does everything and
Which
it is very
Sephiroth was it?
strong.
The mono
Uh,
black one?
the mono black one, yes,
Yeah.
that flips.
Yes.
So,
That way my editor can put the card up as needed because there's like
yeah,
12 Sephiroths.
wow. It's such a good card. It goes so perfectly into that deck. It does everything.
it is
And
it
it's a
is
win
stupid.
con and it's basically a win con and a sack outlet all at once. And it flies and punches people in the face. I mean, what else do you want?
I hate that card because it does. I mean, first off, okay, look, it's Sephiroth, right? I get it. It's supposed to be strong and busted, but it's also I don't like commander cards that do everything for you. Like this guy just automatically. So, like for those of you at home who don't have every Final Fantasy card memorized, fair. This dude is Sephiroth Fable Soldier, 2 and a black, and it's a 3/3. And it says when when Sephiroth enters or attacks, you can sack another creature. If you do, draw a card. And when another creature dies, target opponent loses a life and you gain a life. And if this is the fourth time this ability is resolved this turn, flip Sephiroth, and you flip him into the One Winged Angel, which is a flying 5/5 that says when this creature transforms into, or as this creature transforms into Sephiroth, you get an emblem with whenever a creature dies, they get drained for one. And when it attacks, you can sacrifice any number of other creatures. And if you do, draw that many cards. This card is bananas.
Hmm.
It is stupid.
Yeah, it fits basically multiple things in my deck just by itself. And I mean, it is pretty funny to put Sephiroth in alongside an evil squirrel, Chatterfang. So I'm with it. I'm here for the vibes, but I can imagine that long time, and I kind of want your opinion of this. I know that you like Final Fantasy. I have to imagine that Magic fans who aren't into Final Fantasy are going to be rolling their eyes a little bit because it's like, well, here comes these Final Fantasy cards who
Okay,
are now
well,
going to become staples.
it's there's an ups and downs on here, right? Like for
Hmm.
one thing, this is not the first time Magic has dipped its toes outside of the core ethos of Magic, and
What? I thought this was the first time. You're saying this has
yes,
happened before?
yes. I mean,
Oh my god.
look, but like when they were doing it with secret layers and with like small one-time insertions like Walking Dead, Street Fighter, I don't know, the Princess Bride, Tomb Raider, whatever, that's like fine. Those are like you're gonna see those cards once in a never NBD. But Lord of the Rings got its own set and obviously was one of the best selling sets of all time until Final Fantasy came out. And Lord of the Rings was definitely we had a lot of people going like, it's going to be super weird if I'm like, okay, well, Frodo's going to come in and I'm going to equip him with the, lightning greaves or whatever. And um, people were like, oh, well, what's it going to mean when Grimgrin is carrying the One Ring? Um, and we were really worried about that sort of thing. But then they introduced Fallout and they introduced Warhammer. And the Warhammer decks, especially, were so good. The Fallout decks were so good that it got less weird. Even though people are like, yeah, but aren't you worried that it's going to be stupid when like I'm like, well, I attack with the Avatar who is currently equipped with Iron Man's like Buster Sword and Iron Man's Buster Sword. You know what I mean? Like Captain
Yeah.
America's shield and on the Avatar, and then you're going to block with Gandalf and like the Third Doctor or something. It's like, look, when I was a kid playing Magic, the entire conceit was I am a planeswalker going to different planes. My deck is my spell book of creatures that I've encountered on different places that I summon to attack. Yeah, it's a little weird, but once you actually start playing the game of Magic, it is not that big of a deal because at the end of the day, it's what is on the card, not what's on the picture, right? Like
Yep.
when we were playing at the pre-release, like if I'm attacking you with Cloud who's equipped with a sword, you're not like worried that, oh my god, Cloud got the Masamune instead of the Buster Sword. You're more like, oh crap, do I have enough things to block him or will I die? Right? Like
Yeah.
it's. I mean, it'll be a little weird if I'm like, okay, I take the regalia and I'm going to pilot it with this ooze, and then you're like, okay, well that's just silly, but that's
No,
magic.
that's fun. Yeah,
That's
that's
funny,
magic
I
right
think.
there.
Also, the regalia is
I
amazing.
talking to a few people, their experience was that maybe these games could go a little long. They were feeling like the tempo was off. So
That's
the deck that
pre-release.
I was able to put together a fairly good deck. I had Genova and
Oh, jeez.
Kuja and also X Death, and they were all doing. It was kind of a mill deck.
Wow, that's like a turbo villains deck right there.
Yeah, it was a Turbo Villains deck, and it had some mill, a little bit of graveyard recursion. If characters died, I was getting cards, and when it worked, it really, really worked, and I was super happy with it because I had been practicing doing limited, but this was the first time it actually ever clicked, and I was able to actually win some
That's
games.
awesome.
So I felt so good about myself. Um, but so my personal experience was, I think, very good. But it's been all over the place in many ways. How was your pre-release? Out of
Well,
curiosity,
I'm actually impressed because you played a 3-color deck because Kuja's red black and the other two are green black. So
I
I guess you
splashed a
got the
little
mono.
red, just splashed it in a little
Yeah,
bit.
and Kuja's busted, man. Putting out the freaking black
Yeah,
mages every turn is stupid.
he's just so good. I was just like, I gotta get him in somehow, you know.
Uh, so my deck, a lot of my promos and stuff, my promo was mono green, Bartz and Boko, and like, but all of my cards ended up leaning towards red white. So I built a red white deck with Zidane and Cloud and Choco Comet.
Mhm.
And my games, the one game that I lost badly, the other person had like 4 black mages out and we're just like, I cast a 1 mana spell, you take 4 damage. And I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah, it's brutal for
Yeah,
sure.
but the 2 games that I won though, like they were really close, really fun matches. Like, and I won out by having like, Chocobo Comet come out and just like nug them in the face, or I had a lot of equipment dudes and loading my dragoon who's flying over everything with all these other equipments to come in and smack you. I mean, it was really, really fun. It was a
Yeah.
genuinely solid deck. I had a great time. Like I had Cloud in there because Cloud, but I didn't have any good equipment. Like I mean, I had like the common equipment, like the warrior sword or whatever, but nothing like totally broken. So Cloud was just tutoring up a random, 2-1 or whatever for me. But it turns out that just being a 2-1 for 2 is still good enough to play. So it's
Yeah.
like, I need a body. Um, I don't know. It was hella fun. It was really genuinely a good time, and it played it played about as fast as pre-release games do. Like one of the things about pre-release is that it's the first time anybody's seeing the cards. And for pre-release, there's also a bunch of people who don't play except during pre-release. And so they are slower. The games are a little bit more tempo-y because you're like not sure what's good or not, because maybe you listen to a podcast, maybe you didn't, maybe you listen to it, but a 5-hour podcast when you're looking at a pile of cards is not useful for reference material. So you're like, I don't know what any of this does. Because it's one thing to when you're sitting there prepping, doing pre-release, and you listen to like any of these, like we're gonna go card by card and tell you everything. When you're actually looking at a sealed pool of like 6 packs worth of cards, all of that flies out of your head, and
For
you're just like,
sure.
do I have enough cards for any color to play?
I
Yeah.
opened a box with some friends the night before, and I got a little practice with it, and I was able to start seeing what was good and what wasn't good. My
Mm.
initial deck was really bad,
Hmm.
actually. And I was like, okay, well, I've learned some things, and also I'm getting completely rolled by Titan, and I'm getting completely rolled by a landfall deck. And actually,
Oh,
landfall decks were
so
doing
good.
performing very well during the pre-release.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I took that knowledge with me when I actually had a chance to do the sealed over at the pre-release. And I went 1 and 2. I could have gone 2 and 1. It was very close.
Mm.
The second round went all the way to the end, and then we actually ran out of time, and they won because they had a little bit more life than me.
No,
But
well, you know what?
yeah.
For your first pre-release, going 1 and 2 is not the worst because you're like, hey,
Yeah,
look,
I
you
was
won a
just
game.
relieved that I won. I was so happy I won. I got a pack, felt like $1 million. And I love the flavor actually of all the different cards. I really did feel like I had these Final Fantasy characters.
Mm,
It really did feel like Final Fantasy on this deck, and
yeah.
that felt great.
I thought it was sick. Like I had like my chase card was Firion, the hero of FF2, who's basically whenever you've got your equipped guys, they all have haste, and when you play an equipment, you get a copy of it, and that meant that like I was getting two paladins for the price of one or whatever. And this dude, first off, Firion is like one of the best designs in Final Fantasy, just
Yeah.
artistically. I love that character. Final Fantasy 2 is not a good game, but Firion is awesome. so so this card ruled. But yeah, you're right. It just there was just a vibe of like, man, I'm playing Tifa. That's sick, or like, oh no, he's put out he put out Sephiroth or Lightning. Oh my god, dude. I saw a dude who had lightning and the Buster Sword, and it was just like, oh, game is over.
I was being a little annoying. I got the Battle of the Big Bridge full art in
Mm,
my pull, which I
fatal
love
push.
because I love Final Fantasy V. It's Fatal Push, I suppose, but
Yeah.
redone, reprinted. And when I actually was able to use it and kill one of their creatures, I was like, hold on, hold on, hold on. And I called on Battle of the Big Bridge on my phone. And
Oh,
I was
for
like,
God's sakes.
thank you.
I mean, my storekeep went and put a playlist on of basically every battle theme and like all of Final Fantasy 14 soundtrack,
Hell yeah.
and it was just like, all right, dun, 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 dun. And it's like, all right, let's go, because like
Yeah.
it was sick, man. It they really managed to make a set that feels like Magic and Final Fantasy, and that's very hard to do. Like,
Hmm.
you've come from a background of like being RPG focused and centric and having played every Final Fantasy game. How do you think they captured the vibe of the games?
I think that they did a really good job of using the mechanics to capture the essence of a lot of the different characters. Even just looking at the individual precons,
Mm,
making Cloud equipment focused or making Tifa about extra combats. You're imagining these characters doing those things. So
yeah.
I played the Cloud limit break precon just out of the box, and when Cloud came onto the field and equipped a sword, the Final Fantasy VII battle music immediately started playing in my head. I was like,
Dun,
okay,
dun,
this is
dun, dun.
perfect. This is great. Um, so I think that is a really strong part of it. And but then more than that, more than the individual cards, making the play styles fit really well. I think they did an incredible job, for example, of repurposing the saga creatures, sagas into summons.
Yes. Oh my
So
god.
just so I'm working on an Esperterra deck right now. It's going to be can be 5 mana, but I'm just going with 3 at the moment
Uh-huh.
because I'm like I
Three
don't have
colors.
the mana base to support 5, but I'm new. I'm new
Yeah,
here.
that's fair. Mono bases are the hugest jump to make.
They really are. They're so expensive. That's what I'm kind of discovering,
Boy, are they.
but it's really fun to call in summons and have them do summon things and go away. That
Right?
the flavor is off the charts with
Like,
those. The chocobo, having a chocobo deck. I even know someone who's making a Mog deck right now, and it's
oh,
just
jeez.
adorable.
I don't know. I think the summons were like when the two things that I was really appreciative of when I was looking at the design of the set, and I predicted both of these, which made me feel really smart for a second until I realized like literally everybody probably came up with this. One was the fact that summons were going to be like sagas because it's like, look, you've got to summon on a timer. You can't just have it come in for a little while, and it would feel weird if it's like play your summon and then it sacrifice it immediately at the end turn. A saga giving you kind of this clock that like it comes into play, it doesn't affect, and then making it into a creature so it can attack like twice and then it dies. It's like, oh, that's so perfect. But the one that I really felt like, oh, you guys understood the lesson was the tiered cards, like Thundaga or like Fire Magic, for instance. It's
Yeah.
like level 1 fire, and then you add a couple mana to make it Fira, and then Firaga. And I'm like, oh, yes, this is exactly, yeah, it's just kicker, but it's also so perfectly, it fits. It feels so good. I'm like, oh, look at this. I'm casting Thundaga on your dude. Eat it.
I love that Gavin basically, he's the lead designer, right? His name's
Yeah,
Gavin.
Gavin Verhey.
Uh,
Yeah,
I like that he pulled rank because he's a Final Fantasy IX fan and just made Vivi the most
busted
busted
card.
freaking card in the known universe. I would have built Vivi but I think that if I ever brought that out at the pod that I play in, which is I think like bracket 3 basically, it would be like no, banned.
Yeah, Vivi is. I'm gonna put it into my Nira deck because it is a red blue card that comes into play, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, goofy things happen, and that deck is all about casting non-creature spells. But this
There's a
is like,
lot of text on that
yeah,
card.
that card is busted. Like somebody showed me in their pre-release streamer event, they showed me a deck that they were running with Vivi and a standard deck. A standard deck using Vivi and a card called Agatha's Cauldron and like some other cards to basically make infinite zombies and infinite mana because every zombie comes into play with a +1/+1 counter. Agatha's Cauldron says if you exile a creature or exile, uh, yeah, basically you exile a creature, and if it's underneath the cauldron, any creature that's got a +1/+1 counter on it can use all the abilities of the creatures underneath the cauldron. So if you stick Vivi under there, and Vivi's got that, add mana equal to its power, you can just start adding and you do it once a turn. You create a zombie thing, you make more mana, you add more power, and you're just making like I forget what the other card was. This hang on a second. I need to tell the people this combo because it's absurd. So give me 1 second right here. It was from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, a set that very few people bothered with because it was so sigh worthy. Um, and
People didn't like Wild West fantasy?
I thought it was I thought the card designs were really cool. I thought the theming was really bad. But yeah, so there's a card called Geralf the Fleshright, which is a 2/3, and it says when you cast a spell during your turn other than the first spell, you create a 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature. And when a zombie enters a battlefield under your control, you put a 1/1 counter on it for each other zombie that entered the battlefield under your control. So with this, and with like some recurable spells, you can basically create an infinite loop that makes infinitely large army of infinite zombies. And it is stupid. It is so dumb. But yeah, Vivi is not an okay card. Although the thing that made me laugh is that there was always this joke of like not even in Magic, but every IP that uses someone else's big IP to be in the thing. Like HeroClix used to do this too, where like, you would have your fame like super good like Wolverine unit or Cyclops or whatever, and everybody's like, yeah, I want to play as like crazy superheroes. But once you become like a high tier player, the best card is actually like Shield Agent 32, some random unnamed scrub that nobody cares about, and it's
Yeah.
just broken in some way. But then, like, you see this in Lord of the Rings, they had Orcish Bowmasters. Really, just a random Orcish archer is the most broken card in a set with 38
Yeah, he's in my
Gandalfs and Frodos.
Chatterfang deck.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Why are you running Bowmasters? I thought I taught you better than
Because
that.
it was given to me as a gift, and I was
That
like,
card
well,
is,
I guess
I have feelings. That card is not okay. It should have been banned.
it's not
But
okay. Well,
no,
yeah.
the card is messed up, man. Like, what do you do in Commander? You draw cards. So a card
Hmm.
that says no is just like I don't mind if people are taking damage from drawing cards. That's why Underworld Dreams is great. Orcish Bowmasters is just egregious
I'm sorry.
because
Can
it
we still
makes
be
like
friends?
it's okay. I'm just gonna kill it on sight. Um,
Okay. Well, that's fine. You probably should. It is pretty nasty.
but yeah, like and the side quests. How sick are the side quest cards?
Yeah. I love the fishing one.
I was so happy. Noctis is my
Catch a
favorite
fish.
character.
So I have this lightning deck that I'm building, and I kind of want to stick the catch a fish enchantment in there on principle because
It's so
it's
good.
just so fun.
Dude, I thought they
They
did.
capture the humor
Yes.
and the personality of the series. It's not just here are the heroes. First of all, the art's incredible, just
Mhm.
beautiful. Getting Amano in there
Yeah.
to do some of the premium cards, awesome. But even the basic cards just look really wonderful. But cards like catching a fish from Final Fantasy 15 with Noctis warms my heart.
Oh,
There are a lot of
battle
other
menu.
ones. They nailed the scene where Cloud is going undercover, dressed up in Final Fantasy VII. Nailed that one. The Secret Rendezvous deck, all the
Mhm.
Sids,
Yeah.
they caught like every in
Okay,
joke.
okay. Hang on a second. They left out my girl Sydney from FF15. I will never
Yeah.
forgive them. They gave us
Boo.
old man Sid. They didn't give us the actual Sid of the game. I was like,
Lame.
what do you have against
Well,
hot chicks, wizards?
as a Final Fantasy VIII fan, I do feel a little hard done by because I think I would have built a Laguna deck if Laguna had been an actual character. But
Yeah,
as it
they.
is, we got Quistis and Cypher and Squall and a pretty bad Ultimecia.
Oh, you also got Renoa.
And Renoa, who is bad.
Yeah. Dot.
dot
Renoa.
dot dot. I
Look,
wanted Renoa to be good. I love the idea of having her dog that you can launch. Not a good card though.
I'm just saying, as an FF8 avowed hater, it got exactly what it deserved. However, I
Boo.
do find it hilarious that both Cypher and Squall are like two of my favorite mechanical cards from the set, just because they have like pseudo exalted. They have like when a creature attacks alone, good things happen to them. And both of those cards are mechanically sick. But I felt like I had a flavor win where I had Tifa and I cast Tifa's limit break on her, and that felt really good. Or playing haste magic on Prompto, just like that's so sick. But my personal favorite though is still Zidane, who shows up, steals somebody's thing, gives it lifelink and haste, and then throws it back. The best thing I did in this was like I've had Zidane steal like so many just sick things and gain like a ton of life and whatever. But somebody had a bomb, like one of those guys which is like tap. It gets bigger whenever you cast like non-creature spells or whatever, but you tap it to sacrifice it and do damage equal to its power to something else. And they had a huge board against me, and I was like, okay, crap, what do I do? I grabbed their bomb with Zidane and then sacked it to blow up one of their other dragoons who was going to fly over and kill me. And so I gained the life from the sacking the thingy and doing damage, and I killed two of their creatures. So I felt really smart about that. It was so
I
sick.
I got a full art Zidane, and I kind of want to stick it in my deck, but it's a 5 mana drop. And I was like, well, this feels like something that I would keep putting on the board, taking it off, putting it back on the
Yes, that's
board,
exactly
taking
what
it
you do.
off. Kind of like a little monkey guy who's kind of jumping in and then whoop.
Well, I mean, like the whole gimmick of that is because his second ability says when an opponent gains control of a permanent, the whole point is you're supposed to play all those insurrection style cards that steal all their units and then give them back. And then suddenly you're just getting a ton of treasure because he's pickpocketing. Like the flavor wins of each of these cards was so good. Um, but yeah, so that's enough Final Fantasy. We'll cover Final Fantasy more, but I don't want to just like focus on that because we could do this all day. But more, I'm curious. When we had talked last, you were just still kind of dabbling in Magic and kind of feeling it out. Where are you with Magic now? Like, how have you grown? Like, what made you appreciate the game more? Why are you still here?
I'm kind of all in now. So, just to briefly recap my journey,
Hmm.
about 1 year ago, I went into a card shop in San Diego shortly after San Diego Comic Con, and the person that I was with bought a Bloomburrow starter set, and I thought, wow, rabbits and otters, how adorable. And Magic had always been kind of overwhelming to me. I
I
mean, I
taught
play a
you how
lot
to
of art.
play at my birthday party a decade ago
You
with a
sure
commander
did.
deck.
You reminded me of that, and I was like, "Oh my god, I learned how to play Magic from Shivam.
With a
Cool.
commander deck.
Wow, with the Commander deck." I just remember that deck being very strong and rolling the entire table, and I was like, "Wow, okay, I'm doing stuff." But it had always been a little overwhelming, and so that was when the actual rules solidified in my head, and all of my friends seemed to get into Magic basically at the same time, partly because of Bloomburrow and Dustmorn kind of coming out back to back. And I think those were both pretty fun sets. And everybody was super hyped for Magic the Gathering. So all of a sudden, a lot of people in my circles were playing it and building commander decks. But I think what finally pushed me over the edge was I found a pod of like some fun players who were about the power level that I wanted to be, and I took the deck that I'd kind of cobbled together and we played some games, and I didn't do very well, but when I was done, I came home and I was like, I need to upgrade this deck. And because it was just an upgraded pre-con for Hazel of the Root Bloom. And
Mm,
so that got my brain turning. And actually, one of the things that I've always been about is I love I think I secretly always loved TCGs. I played Hearthstone back in the
mm,
day. I played Marvel Snap, but really I loved Pokemon, not Pokemon
yeah,
TCG, the
the game.
Pokemon,
Right.
Pokemon the game. And Pokemon is about competitive Pokemon is about building little teams that work really well together. And it's almost like playing Magic if you had no lands and you had six characters, six cards that you had to build synergies around. And I really enjoyed that. And so obviously Magic is that writ large, and that hits the exact same center of my brain. And I'm sorry to say, or happy to say, that I'm kind of obsessed now. My desk is currently full of like cards. I'm like, here's some cards. Because I've been crafting this lightning deck and I've been crafting this Esperterra deck. And I very much have Magic on the brain. And talking about the game itself, I love the flexibility
Mm,
of it. The fact that it can accommodate Final Fantasy and Doctor Who and Fallout and make each one of them feel distinct. And it feels possible to craft a 100 card commander deck around these individual themes and have them feel distinct,
hmm.
but also not completely divorced from Magic. I think that's really impressive, Shivam.
I think one of the stats that I like to say to people that I really find very much the most appealing thing about Magic to me is that when we're sitting down to play a game of Commander, you can almost certainly rest assured that outside of CDH, nobody has ever played this pod of Commander before, and very likely nobody will again. These four decks sitting here at the table may well be a unique combination, and the cards that get played out of these 100 cards that show up here are not going to be played in the same order. Each game is going to be entirely different. The way they all interact is going to be different. Every individual game of Commander is an unrepeatable, unique occurrence in life, which is secretly also why I super just dislike high-powered Commander games that are all about tutoring for your specific combo and make sure the variance is reduced as much as possible, because I feel like the joy of this is the fact that you and I can sit down, even if all four of us are playing the same decks, it's never going to be the same combinatrix, it's never going to be the same game twice, right? And I don't know, I've played games where all four of us decided as a gimmick to use the same commander, and even there, the ways that we built our decks were so different from each other that we would just be pausing and going like, I haven't seen that card before. How did that, what does it do in that deck? Or holy crap, I need to order one of those right now for my deck. And it's so much fun. It's so much fun to have like, because that's kind of like going back to Sephiroth, why that sort of card upsets me, because it does everything all in one go. Whereas I like the commanders that give you much more freedom to develop where you want to take this deck, right? Like, give me a commander that leads me in a direction or gently, like, kind of like encourages me to do a thing, but doesn't just do the thing for me,
Yeah.
you know?
One thing that I've noticed, talking about the idea of every pod is distinct,
Mm.
I like that individual pods will almost develop their own metagame
Well, that's what our
where,
hope was.
yeah, you know who each person is and what their play style is. And you may start finding yourself building decks that address this, where
Yes.
in my pod, I have one person who they put a lot of enchantments and artifacts, and they like to build up these really intricate combinations that are going
Hmm.
to start drawing cards and punishing people if they do things. And so I'm thinking here, okay, I better make sure I have some removal for enchantments and artifacts.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
another person who likes to just kind of troll people by going, mill half your deck right now, stuff like that. Or we have another person who's putting a lot of creatures on the board. So when you're building your deck, you're accounting for all of those things. And I play a fair amount of competitive RPG like games. Pokemon is one that I just mentioned. And I've seen over and over again metagames that appear
Mm.
and kind of calcify, and everybody's using the same strategies, and it becomes harder and harder to innovate.
Hmm.
So I like the micro metas that start
Yes.
to develop between each pod.
that is the goal. That is Commander when it is healthiest. When you're playing, and I realize not everybody can have a friends group regularly that they play Commander with. God knows I don't have one that I can regularly play with. But Commander in its idealized state is a group of friends or a shop that is sitting there and playing Commander with kind of their same crew over and over again. And you end up with this cool, like basically, yeah, you know that John likes to play Enchantress decks, so suddenly you're going to be playing a lot more Enchantment Hatred, or like start to get weird obscure cards that will stop one specific kind of thing from happening because you know that your friend loves to have that specific
Or when they
interaction in
bring
all their
out a
decks.
deck and you're like, oh God, that deck.
Yes, exactly. And like, I mean, it does have a negative, which is that you end up in the arms race sometimes of like, oh, well, I'm going to get stronger and stronger and stronger until you guys spiral upwards into just, chaos. But ideally, a balanced crew should have decks where we recognize each other's predilections, build decks around it just to kind of keep them a little bit in check, but not too much. And we're all just having a good time.
I'm still relatively new to Magic in building card decks. I, not surprisingly, have gravitated toward green because, first of all, I think it's pretty. I just think it's a really pretty color. I like all the ramp that's in it. I like big stompy creatures. I like creatures in general. The decks that I'm building a Karlach deck and a Lightning deck, and both of them are kind of built around extra combats and very direct damage oriented. I'm very direct, Shivam. No setting up like little traps and tripwires and proximity mines. Somebody played a Spellslinger deck against me, and it was like playing GoldenEye and walking into a room and having proximity mines explode in your face. I played a card, and they went, oh, you didn't want to do that. Boop, 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 boop. You're dead. By the way, you also didn't get to use that sorcery that was going to make 4 angels. And I was like, oh, well, now I'm sad. It just feels somehow a lot more honest to be like, now there's a giant dragon and it's going to fly around melting your characters and hit you.
Look, at my motto is living life at sorcery speed. I play on my turn, I tap all my lands, I put out a bunch of big honking creatures or a lot of small creatures. They come, they attack you, they go home. Talk to me next turn. There's no muss, no fuss,
it's an honest day's work.
Yeah, you know what? It's a good, clean, clock in, clock out game of Magic, right? Like I'm just here. I'm just here to punch you. There's no shenanigans, no tricks. I've got no cards in hand. Whatever I draw off the top is going to hit the table and is going to hit you in the face.
There's no mana open. I used that mana to cast my dragon.
Like, I didn't keep my mana. I'm like, what am I holding this for? This mana is meant to be used, right? Like, I hate it when people are like, oh yeah, man, I play on your turn. I'm like, what? No, I play on my turn.
That was the weirdest thing. I was playing against this Spellslinger deck and I'm like playing my turn and they're like, whoa, hold on. Anyway, I'm doing all of these things. And I'm like, what is my turn?
There's a reason why we banned the card Prophet of Krufix, which is a card that said you can play all of your spells as if they had flash. And at the beginning of everybody else's turn, you untap. Effectively gave you a turn on everybody's turn. It is busted.
But not only that, it's kind of a bummer when you're kind of doing your thing and it's like, now my time. It's now my time to it's not my time to shine. Actually. Okay, never mind then. It's been really interesting learning the personalities of the different colors. I watched a bunch of primers on white, black, red, blue, green, and learning, oh, okay, so blue is the control color and white is the board wipe color, and how each color very much reflects a certain philosophy, I suppose.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
The evil color.
Blue is all about gaining knowledge by drawing cards and then using that knowledge to be like arrogant dweeb that just stops you from doing anything. White is all about being a stuffy rule setter, which is like, hey, you're playing too many creatures, so I'm going to wrath the board, or I'm going to play a bunch of cards that say only one creature can attack this turn, or you can, you have to pay me mana to, like, I'm going to create a bunch of taxing effects and stuff. It's very just stuffy bureaucracy. Red is all about just like, look, I'm lighting things on fire. I'm going to light things on fire. I'm going to draw cards, but they're all going to be exiled. So I use them or lose them. And if I lose them, GG's, whatever, who cares? And I'm here for a short time, but like I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time type of thing. Black is like, I'm here to kill you. And then I'm here to raise your dead and raise your body to kill somebody else with. It's like, like they're
And I will
not here for.
sacrifice my life force to do so.
Yes, exactly.
I
Like the only life point that matters is the last one.
I started playing Magic through Arena initially,
Mm,
and playing the constructed format and ranked, there's a lot of red because it's
it's
just,
easy to
well, I
go
want
up
to
and
get through
rank
these
with.
games as fast as possible. Going to drop some ice, they're going to hit you in the face a whole bunch, you're going to probably die, and if you don't, I will run out of gas, and I guess I have literally no answer
And
to
the
keep
game is
going,
over.
and the game is over.
Yeah, it's like
And
if
I
you want to just climb the ladder really fast, mono red, the game is you're gonna win, you're gonna lose, but you'll be able to crank another
Yeah,
game out.
it's just about having a solid win percentage. That's
Yeah.
literally all it is.
Like yeah, you get the real games when you get to the actual top tiers, and that's when like you have to actually play real decks to start fighting. But I think that's a little bit of a fault, a flaw of the system. That's not Magic's fault. That's kind of just Arena's fault of the way they incentivize points and things like that. But yeah, like I don't know. I think that it's really interesting to like the colors have personalities, the color combinations have personalities, and you really get a vibe for like. Have you learned the combination names yet?
Oh, there's Demir,
Mm-hmm.
that's blue and black.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Golgari, black
Yeah.
and green, which I know because I use it. And Gruul, because I have a red green deck. And there's like Selenia. Is that red, green, and
Selesnya.
white?
That's white
Selesnya. I
green.
can never remember that one.
That's white
And then
green.
and Rakdos.
Yes.
So I know some of them.
I mean, how have you as a new player getting into this game? How have you found the challenge of like learning the game when people are using all this very like specific vocabulary and jargon, especially in our videos and stuff? Like we don't have a lot of good teach people how to play Magic videos that don't immediately fall into like, well, when you deck yourself with your Selesnya card, it's like what?
Yeah. No, it was actually really confusing and kind of overwhelming to start. And I ended up watching a lot of YouTube videos.
Mm.
There's the professor. I can never remember what their channel is called, but
Tolarian Community College, literally
yeah,
the
that's the
biggest
one.
channel in Magic.
Yes, yes. That channel somewhere. I think the nice thing is not only in addition to watching these channels or listening to my friend's podcast,
Mm.
I also have a lot of friends who play a lot of Magic, and so I'll be playing and I'll go, wait a minute, what does this keyword mean? And they'll go, okay, this is what it means, this is what it does, and this is how it affects the board. By the way, do you know about being on the stack? And I'm like, what? What's being on the stack? I don't know what that means. And so learning all of the different phases and how the interactions work and when the optimal time to actually play a card
Mm.
has been tricky for me, but I like learning all of that stuff. I find it really interesting.
I mean,
And
you're an RPG lady. This is like
I am,
learning the systems is what RPGs are, right? Like,
but there's also a storytelling aspect to it that I really enjoy because
mm,
I like telling stories through mechanics. Earlier,
mm,
we were talking about Final Fantasy and how the flavor text can really capture the personality of an individual character. When I build my teams and when I build my decks in my own way, I'm telling a story. I have this
yeah.
commander, I have a squirrel who has apparently declared war on everybody, and there's pests. And Quina's there for some reason from Final Fantasy IX chasing a frog, and Sephiroth is also there. And it's
Quina is
such,
busted, man. Like, make a token, get a
yeah,
frog.
yeah, perfect. I mean, and
No.
isn't that the essence of Quina?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And then sacrifice a frog, draw a card. Okay, sold. Let's go.
Perfect. Let's go.
It's gross. I think I'm going to be putting Quina into my Kadira deck, which makes a ton of bunnies and tokens all over the place. It's going to be
Oh,
disgusting.
I wanted to just separately. I wanted to build a go wide squirrel deck,
Hmm.
and I somehow ended up with like deck about eating squirrels. And I was like, what? How did this happen? And people are like, well, that's what happens whenever you try to build a squirrel deck. You just end up killing all those squirrels.
I mean, dude, the squirrels are all like cannibalistic little monsters, man. And when you look at the squirrel design in recent Magic, they're just horrifying. They're like black-green. They spawn out in the trillions, and then they like ruin your life.
They're all necromancers for some reason.
Oh, yeah. Bloomborough went weird places with the squirrels, but like historically, like squirrels have been just messed up creatures, man. Like if you go back to like Deranged Hermit, which gives you 3 squirrels and then gives all squirrels in play +1/+1, and like other things like that. There's just lots and lots of busted squirrel cards.
I wanted that card, but it was like $50.
Yeah, well, it's an old card on the reserve list.
That's one of the things that I'm kind of running into is I'm just not willing to spend anything more than maybe $25 for a single. I'm willing to buy sets. I'll do that. But gosh, this is an expensive hobby. It's a really pricey adult hobby that I've already spent hundreds of dollars on just to get into. And I wonder about the barrier of entry there. Is this truly peak Magic? Can we ever go higher than this? Because it is so expensive.
It right now is, especially given that with Final Fantasy, they raised the prices to make them even more expensive. And like from a business perspective, there's 2 parts to it that I can understand, which is like the license from Square must have been prohibitively high. And
Yes.
2, the fact that they know the audience will eat it up. Like real talk, Final Fantasy sold out before it came out, right? Like this, and even at these exorbitant prices, and I hope that this does not set a trend, but this is capitalism, so it's going to set a trend. And Magic is one thing that like I've been talking to a lot of dealers over the years, and one thing is like there's uniformly 2 things. One is Magic is too expensive, and 2, Magic is not expensive enough, because the market has shown that even with premium pricing sets, they will still buy them. And there's a point where they will get to a point per pack where the packs are too expensive and people will stop, but we're not there yet. And I hate that because this stuff is insane. This is insane.
Crazy.
And
a collector's booster, a collector's pack was $60.
A collector booster box was like in the 600s. Before, it used to be like okay, I can understand to a certain extent, like a collector booster being like $20 because it's got multiple rares and foils and things. But even then, I felt bad about it, and I kind of hate that. And like, but now it's just like, and then they fill them with these random hyper chase cards that just raise the prices even higher, and there's a bad cycle happening where like all the good the vast majority of cards are going to Amazon, stores are getting locked out, store events are getting like priced out of existing because it's just cheaper. It's better for a store to sell their boxes on eBay to people who pay thousands of dollars for them than to give them to the people who are coming to the store to play on Saturdays. That's bad for the game, right?
Getting into the TCG scene in the year of our Lord 2025 is a little bit like that scene in Community, the darkest timeline, where they're walking in with the pizza and everything's on fire.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, it's not bad. Like everybody's doing well,
and the gameplay is better than ever.
Final Fantasy was the best-selling set ever. The Tarkir did really well too, from what I'm able to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, WotC's doing great.
Yeah,
but I'm just looking around, going, how can you possibly sustain this? I feel burned. I feel almost a little burned out right now, having dropped some cash on Final Fantasy and decided to build a couple of decks. I don't think I'm going to be getting into the next couple sets. And
I mean,
I just can't financially.
Yeah, real talk is that like I've spent my Magic budget this year on Final Fantasy, and that means, and it's very convenient that I'm not into sci-fi, so I can kind of just play my pre-release kit for Edge of Eternities, and like I don't care about Spider-Man, so like I can also just, if I need a single or 2 from that, I can sit it out. But if you're not a career person like me who gets subsidized in various different ways, and no, Wizards doesn't send me free cards anymore, so this is all from my pocket. But like, if you're just a normal player, I don't know how you do this. And if you're like trying to go to Magic Cons where they cost multiple thousands of dollars to get in, I don't know how you afford this. This game is so insane. And with the economy being what it is
Hmm.
incredibly difficult, especially everybody wants Final Fantasy cards. They're
Yeah.
cool. Everybody loves Final Fantasy. Paying $6 for a booster sucks. Like, real talk. It sucks. And yet, I want Cloud and Sephiroth, and I want, like, Hero of Light and whatever. So it's it's
And how many sets are they putting out per year at this point?
one every month or 2 months,
Yeah,
maybe every 2 months.
that's a pretty intense pace. I don't
It's
know how
too
you can
much.
keep that up.
Like,
Yeah, it
there was
really
a
is too
time we
much.
we used to have 4 sets a year, then 4 sets a year plus a supplemental project, then 4 sets a year plus a couple of supplements, and that's when we were like, "Hey guys, there's too many." And then it got to like 12 sets a year. Now we're looking back at those like 4 set years, going like, ah, remember those days? Once a quarter, and now they're like, no, it's like once a month. Like, think about it.
Yeah.
It's June as of recording. Final Fantasy just came out. In July or August, Edge of Eternities comes out. In September or October, I don't remember, Spider-Man comes out. I don't know. It's like it feels and no, there's like we've got in summer, we've still got Edge of Eternities, Spider-Man, Avatar. Those are
Mhm.
3 sets that are still coming out this year. And up until now, this year we had I can't even remember the sets that came out. Tarkir, and before Tarkir was
Before
Aether
Tarkir
Drift.
was Ether
Aether Drift, the
Drift.
set I friggin' worked on.
Yeah.
And
And
so
before that it was Dustmorn.
yeah, well,
But
Dustborn I didn't like, so I was okay with that. I
I
don't like horror.
I guess it's one of those things where you can pick and choose. Another thing that I was kind of wondering about is how long before we get the Final Fantasy set 2 or the Lord of the Rings set 2?
If
I
they're not planning those right, Lord of the Rings, I don't think,
I
because
want
I
to build a
think
Lord of the Rings deck, by the way. And like I want to go back and build
I'm
Eowyn or Aragorn or something.
I'm pretty sure I have all the precons, and I've got a bunch of Lord of the Rings stuff, so we can come
Dude,
over
I
next
want to
time.
build
And
an Eowyn deck that I can put Torgal into.
yeah,
Can I
we
do that? Is that possible?
Eowyn is so good. But Aragorn, the 4-color Aragorn is busted. Um,
Yeah. I was like, oh, I want to build a whole Fellowship of the Ring deck. That would rule.
we can talk about that. The thing is though, like,
Why are you making those faces? Like, what? I want to
because
know really
I've gotten
quickly.
thumped by a lot of Lord of
Oh,
the
are they
Rings decks.
really OP?
They're very, very the commander
But
decks
then
from
I
that
can
set are
play
very
the
strong.
Lord of the Rings music while I do so.
I don't love that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think one of the problems they're going to run into is a lot of these sets, they put everything into it. Like, they put so much into the Final Fantasy set or so much of the Lord of the Rings set. What does a second one even look like? What do you have left to do? Like, we don't want a Silmarillion set. Nobody cares, right? Like, what is the next Final Fantasy set going to be?
Final
Final Fantasy Mystic
Fantasy,
Quest?
there's a lot of places you can go, like tactics.
Well,
They
yeah.
barely touched on Evilise. Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 5, and even 4 to an extent are areas that they can really buff up, I think. And then I mean, God knows if we'll have multiple new Final Fantasy 14 expansions
Right.
by then. So,
I was telling somebody, I'm like, 14 could have been its own set
yeah,
and leave the rest of us alone.
for sure. I mean, Final Fantasy 14 has a very large fan base, so
You know what I learned during this Final Fantasy time? That A, 11 and 14 are still active, and B, there are more people playing 14 than like the sum total of everybody who's ever played any other Final Fantasy game. And that's
mm.
kind of insane to me.
The
Uh
other thing that's been interesting about Magic is I've played Hearthstone and I played Marvel Snap, and now I've finally come all the way back to the beginning. It's sort of like watching fantasy and then going, you know what? Maybe I will read Lord of the Rings sometime. Or playing RPGs and going, maybe I should try D&D.
seriously. That's exactly, I mean, it is. It's the father of the entire genre,
An
right?
entire genre. And it's not that old. It's only like 30 years
30 years
old.
is a long time, Cat.
It is. I
30 years is
mean,
a
but if you
long
think about
time.
how long D&D's been around and how
Yeah,
long
but like
war
when I
games,
started D&D was like 20 something years old.
yeah.
It was already old by then. And then, like, I don't know. I think it's sick.
Hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, so with all that considered, though, and like you've got a group, you've got like people who like lend you cards, you've got decks to build. What what makes you want to build a deck? I'm very curious.
Okay, here's the funny thing. For a long time, I was a little nervous about building my own deck because it always felt like the decks that I was building would come out poorly. And so I would watch tutorials or I'd use the concepts that other people had come up with and then stick some of my own cards in. And at a certain point, I think I was tinkering around with Arena and I went, screw it. All of these concepts, they always hit on the same metas. What cards do I already have?
Hmm.
And I just started looking for certain keywords and things like that. And I threw a lot of stuff into a deck. And I suddenly found that I had a lot more ownership around
Hmm.
that deck. That deck felt like it was mine. It was not a deck that I was borrowing from somebody else. And that expanded into Commander, and I watched some tutorial videos on deck building and a lot of the kind of the do's and don'ts around it and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the numbers that you wanted to hit. And suddenly it all started to finally, after such a long time, start to click together. And so then it became a personal challenge of, okay, so I went in on a couple boxes with Final Fantasy. I went to the pre-release. I have all these cards lying around now. What can I brew out of this? Out of the pre-cons that I got, and it's been fun. It's been a fun challenge to build a couple of decks, which are really just souped up pre-cons, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's been a fun personal challenge to build a couple of decks that not only hit on my personality, I love Lightning and I love Esperterra, but
Mm-hmm.
also hit a play style that I personally enjoy. And
Mm.
I think building these decks can be a really fun reflection of who you are. It's the sense of ownership is great. Everybody has their own favorite deck. I mean, what's your favorite deck, Shivam?
My favorite deck, God, um, well, my I have so many favorite decks.
Yeah.
Like that's not a reasonable question because I've just got like
If the
I've got my
aliens were showing up and said, Shivam, we are going to destroy the
well,
world.
like here's the thing. When I've got like when I'm going somewhere and I can take like a limited amount of decks with me, and I'm just gonna grab what are the first two decks I'm gonna grab to throw into my backpack, and it's going to be my Grimgrin Zombies deck, my Nira Weirdo Spellslinger deck, and then my Minskin Boo deck. Those are going to be like the three decks because they hit the spectrum. Very high powered, fast, and like full of counter things. Easy to play zombie deck that doesn't require a lot of thought, and then just chaos time if I want to play weird, fun stuff. And in that spectrum, those are like the kind of like vibe that I want to do. I've got like 30 decks here, but like sometimes if you've got a limited space, there's going to be old favorites that you're just going to reach for.
If
And
you were playing in a pod with Hironobu Sakaguchi and Nobuo Uematsu and Tetsuya Nomura,
what?
what
How did I
what
get to
deck
Valhalla?
what deck are you bringing with you?
Well, I'm gonna be
Uh,
if I do that, I'm building a brand new Titus deck, and that's just gonna
oh,
happen.
you're just going in to show off your Final Fantasy chops because 10's
Yeah.
your favorite.
Well, 15 is my favorite, but
Uh-huh.
Titus is like the Titus card is so cool. The Bant Titus card from the precon is so sick that I'm just like, oh man, I want to play this card really badly. Or like the Chocobo card is so good. I don't know, but if I was going to play against Sakaguchi, Nomura, and like Amano or whoever, uh, I would probably pull out my Nira deck, honestly, because it's silly and like I showed it to you, right? It's like beautiful colors, all these weird, chaotic things, and goofy things happen. Because I think those guys would appreciate more just the amusement of emergent gameplay more so than being shown their own artwork over again. Like, it's like, yes, I've seen the Final Fantasy deck. That's cute. Thank you. Whereas, hey, look, here's a fun, cool thing. It's like, you don't want to be reminded of work all the time.
Oh, don't. I mean, I live my work. What are you talking about,
I
Shivam?
look, dude. I know. God knows.
One
Uh,
thing I've learned about deck building is that I have to be invested in the face commander. I
mm,
have to, because to me, that is the personality of the entire deck.
it's a thesis
So,
statement.
yeah. So I can't. I was looking at building. There was the Sultai Arisen deck with the dragon that was in there. That
Yeah.
was kind of a zombie dragon deck, and I thought well, that's kind of cool, I suppose. But I wasn't getting a lot of personality from that deck.
Hmm.
And then I built a Karlach deck, and Karlach is my favorite character from Baldur's Gate 3, and I put a lot of dragons in that deck, and it ended up being pretty fun. And when I cracked open the Final Fantasy VII precon and saw that Tifa could do extra combats, the little voice in the back of my head went, Tifa would probably be better in this deck, and you could splash in a little another color. And I went, no, bad. This is Karlach's deck.
I mean, that's the thing. They keep printing better zombies to be zombie leaders for zombie tribal decks or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but this is my boy that I've had since the first pre-release I went to. I'm not switching it. This like my Tajik deck, my soldiers deck, which is my pet deck, the deck that I've foiled out. It's got all my favorite fantasy cards. And I don't really play because it's not very fun anymore. But I'm like, look, you guys keep printing good cards. I am never replacing my ride or die commander. This is just the way it is. It's just going to happen. But like that's the thing. Like for me to build a deck, there has to be a commander that speaks to me in a way that makes me go like, I don't have a deck that does that, or wow, that seems like a really interesting way to play. Like the most recent deck I built was the Council of Four, which is the leaders of the city of Baldur's Gate, because I went to an event in San Francisco where they was doing a Chaos Commander draft, where they give us a whole bunch of packs and we build decks, build commander decks out of what we find there. And the colors I ended up in were blue white with this Council of Four guy. And the Council of Four deck says like when a player casts their second spell, you draw an extra card, or when they play their second, or like when they draw two cards, you make a knight. When they play two spells, you get like to draw a card or something like that. And so I was like, oh my god, I'm making all these knights and all these card draws. This is hella fun. I don't have any decks to do this. I'm gonna go home and build it, and it was exciting. Yeah, I think like a commander has to speak like it's more so than like when I started, I was like, I want to build around this theme. I'm going to find a commander to fit. But now that there are 10,000 commanders, I can just be like, find me the commander that does the thing I want, and I'm going to build the deck around it. But
So
yeah,
I've built a graveyard deck. I've learned how like graveyard recursion kind of works. I've built an
I should show you my
aristocrats
Nephra
deck.
deck.
I've built a dragon deck, which I showed you
Yeah,
actually, and you said this deck needs more ramp and more removal.
it
Eat your
does.
vegetables, cat. And I took that to heart and went in and put in a bunch of extra stuff. So I'm looking forward to playing it. I don't know what the next frontier is, though, for me once I finish my Final Fantasy decks. The Esper deck is kind of summoning just doing a lot of summons. It's a
Mhm.
saga deck, saga
Well,
enchantments deck. Yeah.
the thing is,
Lightning
Cat,
deck's basically Karlach again.
yeah, that's the thing. Is like you want to be very careful to not just make the same deck three times, right? Like
Yeah, I'm trying trying to vary it up. I'm a little reluctant to build a Spellslinger deck because I just don't want to do the tripwire thing.
it took me 30 years to build a Spellslinger deck. And the only way I was able to do it is because Nier is a chaos mage, and it's a very different kind of Spellslinger deck. It's not about spells, it's about just flipping random crap off the top. But yeah, like that's the thing. The thing that I envy you right now is that because you're new to the game, there's so many avenues of decks and stuff you've never seen before that you're going to be able to discover and be like, oh my god, I've always wanted to play this kind of weird value engine deck or something, and it's going to be really, really exciting and fun. Um,
Ooh,
I
value
did find
engine
it
deck.
really interesting though that you were like so reluctant to talk to me about commander decks because
Well, you talk about it all the time, and I just wanted to be like, this is Shivam's job. I don't want to like start bugging him about about Commander. It's like, Cat, why aren't you talking to me about Magic? I literally
yeah, I'm like I'm the guy who knows that I can help you.
I was on the council and stuff, and I went, oh yeah, like I'll talk to you about Commander. And then you said, by the way, look at all this cool stuff I have, and I was like, it actually is pretty cool.
The funny thing is, you've known me for so long that you've seen me get all this stuff, but it didn't mean anything until now, which is what I find just deeply amusing. Um, I don't know. I'm going to end with this, which is that I am very curious as a new player who's going out to look for resources to find things to learn how to play or whatever. What do you think is missing from that ecosystem that you would
Mm.
find most helpful? Like, what do you think should exist to help people like you become people like me?
Yeah, I think the learning curve is actually really steep,
Mm.
and there is actually a pretty good ecosystem of going to pre-releases. And I was actually a little nervous about going to a pre-release at the local game shop because I was afraid of being surrounded by kind of sweaty nerds.
Hmm.
No disrespect or anything. A lot
I
of them
mean,
are really
sure.
nice, but I was like, I don't know. But then I went with some friends and it was okay. And I actually had a really fantastic time. We went to Game Parlor in San Francisco, and that was a really good experience. Uh, I think that a lot of the content that is being produced is very much with hardcore Magic the Gathering fans in mind.
Mm.
And I was ultimately able to find stuff that was kind of accessible, but um yeah, I think that more guides to deck building and understanding the actual individual concepts behind it. There's content that you can find,
Mm.
but being able to get, I think accessibility and onboarding is a kind of a big deal, honestly,
Mm.
because this community has been around for so long and so many people have been playing for 30 years that there's a lot of assumed knowledge
Mm.
in there. And I think that I had to learn about a lot of the basic concepts that people like you take for granted. It makes me think of, actually, it's kind of funny, in the Star Wars universe they have this term called BBY for year, and it was
Yeah.
for years. I did not know that that meant before a battle of
Battle of
Yavin.
Yavin.
Before a battle of Yavin. I read the expansion, the expanded universe novels back in the 90s.
Yeah. They didn't talk
I
about
did not know
BBY
this.
there.
And I remember seeing this interaction where somebody said, "Who doesn't know what BBY means?" I'm like, "Well, a lot of people." Me, I didn't know what BBY meant. So, I think that not assuming knowledge and making the game more accessible is like a good way to get even more fans in here. We saw a huge influx of people coming in and playing Magic for the first time with Final Fantasy, and getting them to stick beyond the wow, these cards are really cool. That's the part way that you keep the game growing, I think.
Yeah. I think that is exactly it. Is that like we need to find a way to show the people that the game itself is the fun part, not just the candy coating that brought you in, and find a way to help them stay here. Because one of my favorite things in the world is running into people at pre-releases or at events who this is the first time playing Magic, or they haven't played Magic in forever, or they played it once a long time ago, and they came in because they saw this card that was neat for some reason. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's make this a great experience for you.
There's a
Uh,
reason. I think it's good to remember why people got into Magic in the first place. And for the most part, I actually think this is a really well designed game. The power creep is getting is a little intense in some ways because I guess they want to have those chase cards that everybody is going for. I
okay.
wasn't here in whatever past for whatever the good old days were, so I don't have a huge amount of context. But I think it's good to remember like what is great about Magic, and I
Mm.
think the interactivity with your friends, the huge number of strategies that every deck can encompass in the way that they can fit your personality, the mini meta games that can form that we were already talking about, the fact that there's so many cards that you can dredge up and people will go, "What the heck is this card?" The sheer number of cards and
Mm.
sets is amazing, actually. And it does feel like even if you don't want to splash the cash, you can enjoy it in if you're willing to, get a little creative, have a little
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Um gosh, yeah, exactly that. I mean, like, oh man, I had a thought and I lost that train. But it's funny that you were like, "Oh man, there's so many cards and stuff," because we finally gotten to the point again where I don't even know all the cards anymore. And the thing is, like, you're right. When I sit down to a commander game, the funnest thing in the world is for somebody to play a card I've never seen before and then have to figure out how does this impact all the stuff. I mean, that's why my other show, Shivam and Wheeler Love Magic, exists, so that we can sit and remind people about every psychotic card that ever ever existed.
I would watch content and they would be like, use this card. And I would be like, what the heck is this card? I've never even heard of this card, but
It came out
apparently
3 days
goes
before you
really
started
well with the
playing.
set. It came out in 2015 with some set that you can't remember anymore.
Dude, there are cards that came out in the sets that I've played that I just played that I'm like, I swear to God, I know every card in that set, and I've never seen this card before. But that's the way it goes sometimes. But with that, though, we should call it a day here. Otherwise, you and I will talk forever. Thank you so much for joining me. I love talking to you, Kat. Obviously, we've been friends for a very, very long time. But it's fun to talk to you on a hobby that I've never gotten to share with you before, which is super cool. If folks wanted to find you or your other show or your new newsletter, where could they go?
Yeah, check me out on Blue Sky. That's Kat Bailey. Also, check out my other podcast. It's about RPGs, Axe the Blood God. Shivam's going to be joining us for the next episode, which is coming out next Monday. We're going to be talking about...
next Monday, but remember, this show is not coming out till like July.
Oh, wow. Well, go check out the episode that Shivam appeared on.
Yeah.
And it's going to focus more on the Final Fantasy side of the Magic the Gathering set, but we'll be talking plenty of Magic as well. So go and check out that episode. And then I have a newsletter, and by July, it should be really cranking along and doing awesome. It's called Nintendcats. That's with a K, nintendcats.beehive.com, and it's a weekly newsletter dedicated to all things Nintendo. Please consider subscribing and supporting it.
Yeah, I mean, I should say, and I didn't do a very good job introducing it. Kat used to be like she used to be the editor-in-chief of like, US Gamer. She used to be like one of the high-ranking editors at IGN. She's like literally one of the smartest and most erudite people in video games, and is a writer who I have deeply admired for many, many years.
Thank you.
And so anything she writes is really worth your time. But as always, my friends, you can find me at Blue Sky at Shivam Bhatt, or this show anywhere podcasts are sold, or on YouTube every Tuesday, thanks to my editor, Dan. You can also hear me on Shivam and Wheeler Love Magic, or the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.